Welcome back to the Real Estate Huddle. This is episode 13. We're excited to talk a little bit today about a fun topic. This is for all of you that haven't bought a house yet, or if you have a family member or loved one that hasn't bought a house and is saving for a down payment. This is going to be kind of cool because we're going to talk about some of the key steps and ways that you can save for a down payment to be ready and all prepped to get that house that is going to be a great investment for you for the long term. It starts with savings. It starts with those little habits. And so we're going to open it up here and talk about, what do you guys think are some of the key habits that it takes to be able to get a down payment? You're both homeowners, both bought a home in the last 5 years. So what were some of the things that you guys did to save and be ready for that moment?
Jackson, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully I've always kind of been taught to save, like since I was a kid. Like my parents gave us an account where they would match, the $5 of chores money or whatever, like for what we saved. So I've always just tried to have a budget where I'm putting a certain amount into savings every time. And then, I guess just being financially responsible. You can do a lot of things like working on your credit, which will help you get a better rate. I know a lot of young people, they might not have credit cards. If you get credit cards, it actually is a good way to increase your credit as long as you're making those payments. So I think just kind of the basics, budgeting. There's apps like Mint that are really great if you don't know how to budget or you don't know where your spending's at on certain categories. You can tie in your credit cards to that, and that can help you make a plan to save as well.
Yep.
I think for me, when Jay and I first got married, we were very adamant on getting into a house as soon as we possibly could after college. And so on top of paying for college, we would set as much money aside and just like put anything we could away and just stored it in a savings account. And we're pretty disciplined on that. Jay was. I probably would have spent a lot of it, unfortunately, but she was very smart in putting it all away. And just built it over time. Sometimes, you have to be realistic with your goal of when you're going to buy a house based off of that number for the down payment, because sometimes it takes time, especially in an economy like this where everything's inflated and we just have expenses are high, whether you're renting or owning it. I mean, it's totally just high all the time. So any chunk of money you can put away as soon as you can is going to be to your benefit in the long run. Sometimes it just takes that long-term thinking to help out a lot. So that's what we did. And we just started as early as we could. And my advice, if from anybody to the, just being born to now, put money away as early as you can. Cause,
so Jamin was driving that ship.
Jamin drives
very well.
Jamin drives every ship.
So
except my Subaru. That's my
spouse. Get a spouse that forces you to save money.
Yeah,
that's Spencer's key.
Yeah,
and then after that, it's done. Right.
Yeah, our marriage is rough right now because of it. But
and I think you touched on briefly, kind of being realistic. The best way to save up for a down payment for your dream home is to put down a small down payment for your starter home first. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of people, particularly my age, they look at the price of the average home and they say, oh my gosh, that down payment is completely out of reach. That's more money than I'll be able to save up in the next 10 years. But if you are, willing to start a little smaller, get a 1-bed, 1-bath, 2-bed, 2-bath, that's going to be a smaller down payment. You can get down payment assistance and you really only need a couple $1,000s. I have a social media video that I need to post where I interview people on the street asking how much money they think you need to put down. And I got anywhere from $20,000 to $100,000. Most people were vastly overestimating how much money they would actually need to put down on a home.
I 100% agree with that. And usually they don't want to talk to anyone until they feel like personally they're ready. But they don't go and get all the information first to find out how much they actually need, which is crazy, or what the requirements are, right? By talking to a lender or a realtor up front, you can avoid all that stress and the angst of not knowing, because I think the fear of the unknown is kind of the worst part about it. But That's the key, is just like meet with the professionals up front, and they'll tell you like, okay, here's what you should do. Here's what you need to save up and that sort of thing. And man, yeah, we've seen people get into a house for $1,000, right?
Yeah.
And they scrimped and saved for that $1,000. Like it was a big deal for them, but they got there. Yeah. So I think that's really a good point there.
Yeah. I think my biggest advice is all of the feelings that you have of, I'm just going to wait to talk to somebody until I feel like it's the right time, or any feeling that you have of like, maybe we don't have enough money. I want you to take those and I want you to bury them, because those are all like, you just get all the information you can first, then make that decision on waiting if you need to, because a lot of people don't understand what's out there truly to help them. And really, realistically, for a first-time home, you don't need as much as you may think.
Yeah.
Now, it's not the case for everybody, but
and we're talking like 40% of the population, right? That just doesn't look into it, doesn't really like dig into the details to know, and then doesn't ever buy a house and continues to pay rent month to month to month and never gets ahead. It's so hard to get ahead when you're paying rent every month.
Talking to all you 30 to 35-year-olds out there that aren't in a home yet.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're in your 20s, you can own a home too. Talk to me.
Yes.
These old people, we can't let all of them get the house. Right? We need some younger people too.
Jackson will teach you how to do this Gen Z style. But so those are some good points. Me personally, like we've used mint.com a lot and just budgeted, based on different categories. And it's nice. You can set alerts. If you go over, then it'll send you an email saying, hey, you just went over on your entertainment budget or your, clothing budget, whatever it is. Right. And then you can be like, all right, okay, we got to dial it back and we got to say no to things for the rest of the month so that we can stay on budget here. So I like that aspect of it. I like that you can set goals on mint.com. I like that it pulls in, like it ties in all your accounts, credit cards, bank accounts, like everything, investment accounts.
And how do you set that
it's
up
all in one place.
If you've never used Mint before?
Free account. So easy. Yeah. It'll take you probably an hour or so to like get all your accounts in there and get everything all set.
And you connect all your credit cards, right?
Yep, connect it all, and then you can just review it like every week, or every month for some people, just to make sure that you know where the spending's going, what's happening there, and it's so. I mean, it would take me like 10 hours, to figure it all out from all my statements and like do what the software does. So it's pretty incredible as far as that goes. And I think some people that are like 1099 independent contractors, they avoid doing like a software like that because their payments are not consistent and their expenses aren't consistent. And so it makes it a lot harder. I've found challenges with that too. But the key is just do it. Just start with one of those and start doing it. But there's a few ways, right, that we can really be smart about this and save up and have that money ready to make a down payment. And so one of the first ways is to make sure that we're parking that money, right, when you do save, into something that's actually yielding, an interest rate, right? That's a good rate. You're not gonna get ahead in life by having all your savings in a Wells Fargo account that's giving you like 0.00005% interest.
I made I think 5 cents last year.
Yeah. and that's what most people do.
It's pretty nice
because it's liquid and it's available, right? But we're not dogging on Wells Fargo because Chase and KeyBank and some of the others are the same, right? Bank of America, whoever you bank with, US Bank. But the key is there's other high yield savings accounts, CDs, like other things that are very liquid that you can put your money in. And right now the interest rates are up to like almost 7% at the time. Right now you can earn like 5 to 6% on liquid accounts that you can pull money in and out of without a problem. So if your money is sitting there in an account that's earning nothing, you are wasting a huge opportunity for your money to be working for you. And I want to mention, I read the book, The Richest Man in Babylon, and that's like, I try to follow those principles as much as I can because that's such a classic book by George Clason that everybody should read. If you're thinking about buying a house or just having financial peace and success in life, like it's actually written kind of like a story too, it's really a fun read. It doesn't take long to get through it all, but that's one that I highly recommend.
Yeah, and just a footnote on that. I know for younger people who haven't invested before, typically, they might be familiar with Robinhood or apps like that for investing. And a lot of people just don't feel prepared to pick stocks or to invest, I would say look at mutual funds and ETFs. They're funds where a professional has conglomerated all of them together. They're a lot lower risk, and typically, as long as you're investing in a good fund, you're going to have pretty constant, steady returns, and you're going to be getting money back rather than just having your cash lose its value to inflation.
Mm-hmm. I think it's funny that you mentioned 1099 and contractors. For me personally, like those apps and stuff are. They're difficult to use, like with Mint and things like that. So putting any money away and budgeting and all that kind of stuff, super valuable, regardless of whether you're W-2, 1099, doesn't matter. For those of you that are more consistent with your paycheck and your income, automating your savings is a huge benefit. So literally, I mean, you can automate just about anything with online banking and all this stuff. But when your paycheck comes through, taking so much of that paycheck and putting it directly into whatever account your moneymaker is, it's easy. You don't even do it yourself. In some cases, it's just bam, straight there, or just marking it on your calendar like every paycheck. This goes to this.
Totally.
Yeah. And I'm a visual person. Make a separate bank account and call it house fund or whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. And then you can see that when you're going into your banking app and say, oh, look, we're saving. We added money to it. We're closer to our goal.
Yep.
If you're a visual person, that helps me.
Totally. Yeah. And that's a good point of like going through professionals like to get help. Because like if you talk to a financial advisor, they can set you up with one of those high yield savings accounts. Usually they have a platform that you can put money in and out of that platform, and with they may have a small fee associated with it, but like they can guide you as to like what the best funds are and stuff like that. So I would say lean on professionals as much as you can as far as that goes. And then the next point would be to explore additional sources of income. So, you've got your regular JOB, right? But then you've also got other side hustles that you could do, right? Like anyone could, start an online business or maybe, you start.
Economy.
Yeah, exactly. There's pet sitting, there's freelancing, there's Uber drivers, there's all kinds of different things that you might be able to do on the side to create some extra income that can be applied to that down payment. And man, once you get into that home, you could, you're just not going to regret it, like having that money saved up. But cash is king. Having that cash is huge to be able to do that.
Yeah, and in an economy like this, sometimes the side hustles are not necessary, but I think I saw a statistic the other day. I don't want to quote it, but there is a large majority, larger than there's ever been, of people working multiple jobs to keep up or to save up for whatever their goal is.
Totally.
And a lot of people are doing it.
Yeah.
So it's a very viable option if you want to get to where you're going quicker. So
and dual incomes is at an all-time high too within households with spouses and even multi-generational too. We've seen people that have bought a house with their parents or with their kids or even 3 generations of people buying together. So you can get a little creative there as far as that goes with who all could be signing on the loan and pooling money together. So that's another thought.
Next one, looking for down payment assistance programs. So like we were saying before, this is why it's really important to bury all your feelings and just talk to a lender first. Talk to your professionals, your real estate agent, your lender. They know every program out there that is available that can, whether it's down payment assistance, whether it's like your VA loans, whether it's, whatever you qualify for. There are a ton of them out there. And I don't even think we know all of them sometimes. There's something new coming out all the time. So keeping up to date with those is super beneficial. Down payment assistance programs, there will be times where you can either get a grant or what would you call it? Almost another loan for a down payment if you don't have the cash on hand. It's a loan that you don't pay any interest on and you don't pay it off until you sell your house. Yeah. It's called a silent second mortgage. So I love using those for first-time home buyers. First of all, because it's an amazing tool. But second of all, it gives them a sense of relief where it's like, oh man, we could have done this a while ago, and now we don't have to worry about down payment. And the cash that we do have, we can save it or toss it back into the house somehow or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's really beneficial. Helps out everybody.
Some of these grants will give you up to 4% of the home's value.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So if the government is going to hand you 4% of the home's value, take it.
Yeah.
Just take
Do it.
But you got to know about it. So talk to a professional. I think that's a great point of doing that. Awesome. Now the one that nobody wants to talk about.
I hate this one.
I want to talk about it.
Nobody likes this. Reducing your expenses.
And that's it. Let's go to number 6.
Actually spending less. That's the worst. Nobody likes to be the person as if they've like come down from Mount Sinai and they're going to tell the rest of their family like, hey, we need to stop
You're spending too much money at Target.
Yeah.
You stop spending money on Pokemon cards.
Yes. Every time you go to Target, you spend $100+. That's never true.
On a shirt.
Yeah. But it's like, that's where it comes down to, right? You have to be able to like see how you can increase your spending. It's a math game, and then decrease your expenses. And so as simple as that sounds, it's not so simple. It takes discipline. But those that are very disciplined get to some great things, and homeownership is one of them.
Yeah, and as far as reducing expenses, there's small things too. I bet you have a subscription service if you're not using Mint or something like that that's charging you monthly. You probably don't even use it, and you could be putting $10, $20 a month towards saving for a house instead of paying for that subscription you forgot about 6 years ago. So.
Yep.
And let's be honest, you don't need that many streaming services.
Like, I want to know what the average is in America. Probably like 6.5, 7, right? Streaming services in a house.
You can't share Netflix
crazy.
anymore. They're locking you out.
The other day,
crazy.
the other day we were watching a show on Hulu, and there's ads that pop on, and Jay looks at me. She's like, "So you don't love me enough to pay the extra $2 for no ads?" I was like, "Sure." So,
and she's the saver.
So much for reducing
She's the
expenses.
saver. That's how important
we
that
don't
is,
follow number 5.
Our night out is sponsored by Charmin. This ad is
Now this next one, let's move
Hold
on.
on, before we go there.
No, we don't want to talk about 5 anymore.
Just last thing. A lot of people, especially like the Gen Z population, is moving back home to save on average. So like the average rent cost in America is $1,967 per month, right? That's $23,600 in a year. So the average person is saving $23,600 when they move back in with their parents. And depending on who your parents are, that might be worth it, right? To save and get ready for a down payment so you can own your own place rather than dealing with landlords and throwing your money away for months on end.
I think we've all been there at one point.
Yeah.
God bless all of our parents, because
Yep.
I know that they weren't able to do that. So my parents helped us out a ton in letting us live with them for a bit to save a ton of money. We saved a lot, like just because of that. It was awesome not having to pay rent for a little. We paid a little bit of rent, but they wouldn't let us pay stuff just because they're good people. So
One of the more common ways to save, I think.
a lot of people coming out of college. You've been living alone. You don't want to go home and live with your parents. They're not cool. They're not as cool as you anymore. You'll feel a lot cooler in a couple years if you have your own place and your own house than if years down the line you've been paying rent, you don't have savings, and you're 45 and you move in with mom and dad. So
my parents are cool.
I have teenagers though now, and everyone keeps telling me that I'm going to be cool to my kids again when they're 21, 22. Isn't that, there's some truth to that, right?
there's a refresh, yeah.
Like your parents kind of
They come back.
Well, yeah.
Not for the right reasons all the time, but they come back.
So they go from your parents to your friends once you're like old enough, I think.
as long as you treat them right. All right, we're ready for number 6.
All right. For those of you that are on a W-2 or with that consistent income, this one's a pretty good one. You can always request a raise. We're finding that it's not as well. I shouldn't say that. It can be a little harder in times like this with companies cutting back and layoffs and things like that. But definitely proving your worth and working hard will pay off.
Yeah.
Almost always.
Figuring out how you can
Speaking
provide
of-
more value, right, in the marketplace.
We can talk about this later, right? A raise. right?
Sell more houses.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Like I said, W-2s, 1099s, is a little harder to do that. But
There's a book called Crucial Conversations that I think is an awesome book for those of you that are
I've heard
W-2
of
like
this
employees. Really good book just to know how to approach those conversations with your employer, and have the best results there by being prepared, being confident. When you go into those conversations, that book gives you just a lot of good tips on that.
Yeah, and the biggest one that I've heard is just have options. If you're able to shop your resume, get other offers, you can have a conversation with your boss and say, hey, look, I love this company. I want to stay here. I'm looking at some other offers from other companies and they're more competitive. Is there anything we can do here? And if your boss says no, then at least you know what your market value is and you know what your other options are. And it's a much stronger way to approach your boss saying, hey, I want to stay here. I want to work with you so that we can make this happen, instead of saying, I just want more money because.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's move on to number 7.
Jackson, you know this one pretty well because you talked about it in one of our episodes.
Yeah.
But gifting, asking for a gift from whoever you've got in your circle. This is becoming more and more frequent just because more parents nowadays they've got a lot of equity in their home. They've got a lot of things going on for them as far as their finances go. So they're able to help a little bit more than they have ever really been able to, I guess, in the history of whatever. But
I think they understand the value of home ownership too.
that is a big one as well.
They've seen how much home ownership has done for them financially, and they want their kids to have the same.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'd say that's the number one way to help your kids. Like, the classic thing is Sweet 16, buy them a car when they graduate from high school or whatever. You can take that same amount of money. I mean, still buy them a car. I'm not saying don't do that. But if you really want to help your kids out and give them a head start, and you are blessed enough to be able to do so, that's definitely something where you can give your kid a huge leg up, and they'll be able to start owning real estate possibly decades, before they would if they were all on their own. So.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and I think it's maybe something that's like kind of personal for people. They may be embarrassed to talk about, or like they don't feel great about it, the fact that they needed to get a gift from their parents. But it does happen quite a bit. I mean, we see it as realtors quite a bit where parents are contributing, and very generously, and it's it's cool to see that help, to get their kids into home ownership. So.
And the research that I've seen is right around 70 to 80% of parents say that they would be willing to help their child with a real estate purchase with a cash gift. So it is something where the majority of parents, if they are able to do so, are willing to do it. And, one or two awkward conversations can definitely be worth getting into a home and starting your real estate journey.
Yeah.
And a lot of it can just be, it doesn't necessarily have to be awkward. Most of the time it can just be a sense of like going to your parents and saying, hey, I'm looking to buy a home. What would you recommend I do for a down payment? Mm-hmm. How would you recommend I go around this? Yeah. That's one of the first things I always do is I talk to my dad all the time about stuff. I always ask for his counsel on just about everything I do. Yeah. So it's a good way to start the conversation.
Definitely. And some of our listeners are probably thinking, that ain't going to happen in my situation. My parents aren't going to do that, which it's not going to happen every time, and not everybody's in that situation, but.
And doesn't always have to be parents. I've had clients who, got a gift from grandparents or aunt, uncle, friends, even. It's true.
Yeah. Yep. Could come from anywhere. So on gifts, the family member has to sign off on that gift, basically with the lender just saying that this isn't a loan. They're not giving this so that they can get it back in return. They're gifting these funds and it's purely a gift, right? And that's how it can work from an underwriting standpoint with the lender. Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right. And then last but not least, reprioritizing our savings goals, right? So understanding that you're not just saving, to put money away, right, for the long term, like all the way through retirement and 401k type stuff, right? Like thinking about saving in short term so that you can have this big goal of a golden goose that's going to go out and make you more money. And home ownership is a forced savings plan, right? It's going to force you to save that money and pay yourself back every month, a principal balance. And so that is kind of the golden goose, for a lot of people. Like you want to have those savings goals set for short-term goals, not just retirement. And I think too many people, young people just think about like, oh yeah, someday I'm going to start my retirement planning, but like, no, really, like the first step is get into a home. And man, your financial life will be so much better down the road if you can do that.
And it's an investment that's leveraged, which I think is something that gets missed a lot when people are looking at investing in real estate. Just imaginary numbers to make it easier. If I have $10,000 and I put it into a mutual fund and I'm getting a 5% return on that, you're only getting so much money. But if you use that $10,000 for a down payment and you're leveraged, typically 10 to 1, on the loan, then you're going to be getting 10 times more appreciation and increase in value from the same amount of money initially. So you're able to leverage your money and have greater gains in real estate than if you were just to directly put that money in another traditional investment.
Yeah, definitely. So last, as we close this out, there are a couple other things that you got to be aware of that you need to save for as well. So not only your down payment, which tends to be, anywhere from $1,000 all the way up to, you can put as much as you want down on a house. But you also have closing costs, which tend to be like about 1% to 1.5% of the home's value typically. And then mortgage reserves. Usually lenders want about 2 months of reserves in your accounts. Those could be retirement funds. They could be any type of fund that you can show. And then think about moving expenses, think about emergencies, think about things that might break. Just having a little cushion when you go into homeownership really does help. So you don't want to just get to the bare minimum. You want to make sure that you have a little cushion there so that you're comfortable moving forward.
Just keep in mind, down payments vary across the nation. Mm-hmm. The down payment you're going to save for in California is probably going to be a little bit bigger than what you save for in Oklahoma. Yeah. Or, flyover states is what they call them, I guess. But so be patient with yourself based off where you're living. Don't play the comparison game. Put your head down, go to work, start saving, and make sure or get as much information as possible before you start making your goals, because the more information you have, the more specific your goals will be.
And Landon, is the greedy lender taking all of those closing costs just for themselves and I'll never get that money back?
No, it's a breakdown, right? Like between the lender, and a lot of those fees aren't going straight to the loan officer, right? It's split up. Some of it's interest that you're prepaying up front before your first month payment. A lot of it's prepaids is what we call them. Yeah. There's a lot of the breakdown between property taxes and insurance and all that stuff. But
prepaids are money that comes back to you, right?
Correct.
Later on.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's paying for expenses that you have coming up in the next 12 months.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think that's it for today. So thanks for joining us. Hope this helps you if you are saving up, or maybe it inspired you to start and get a plan going so that you can get into your first home and benefit from all the awesome things that homeownership brings. Thanks for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you next time on episode 14. So if you have enjoyed what you're listening to and you'd like to hear more, make sure to press that subscribe button so that you can not miss out on any more episodes that are coming up. And also check out all of our contact information is below. You can see us at the dreamsmithteam.com to look up more information about our team and our history and all of the members of our team, and see contact information that you can reach us if you have any real estate needs.
See you next time.